this might be my calling.
Oh.
Because that's what Vayikra means. It should have called out to Moshe. No. I don't want to talk about my work. I didn't have a glorious moment. It was only a rich moment. It wasn't a glorious moment.
Rich is good.
Rich is whip, maybe. Okay, Vayikra with a small olive. Why is there a small olive?
Maybe it's an Aramaic word.
Because Vayikra, because when we go to Bilam, it was Vayikra.
I like that.
Correct.
I got the wrong book.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry.
Correct.
No, it's not your fault.
So why would we want it to look like Bilam?
Because Moshe is very humble and didn't want to look as though Hashem was actually calling him to speak
He
to him.
diminished the olive.
Yeah. There's another reason.
Very nice. Very nice.
I know another reason.
That's the Balaturing, by the way, what you just said.
There's another reason.
Yeah.
Oh, good, Eat dinner.
That if you want to learn Torah, it's not good to be big, you know, like, if you want Torah to learn, the Torah comes easy, you're not bought it.
So why the olive, why not the vav?
Well, that's the app, because that shows it, you know, less, you must be less to receive it.
You could say because the olive represents ani, me.
How much, oh, that's it, right, okay.
That's how you spell ani. Olive, nun, good.
And there's another reason. The other reason is, after the parashot, it often has Moshe and Aaron together. And this is one stage, one particular haftarah. One parashah where it's all about Aaron, because Aaron is the one who is the person and Moshe wanted to show this in honor of Aaron, that Aaron, it's all about the offerings.
Why the small olive?
Again, because to show that the humility of Aaron, they wanted to give Aaron the honour of having his parashah for him, because it's about him.
But I'll tell you the real one, is that God spoke in that still small voice, and he called Moshe, and the olive represents that small voice. Only Moshe could hear.
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
else
no
could
big
hear
challenge.
it.
That's good, very nice.
And there's another reason.
Yeah,
Another
good.
reason, but
We're going to have this be the
there's
last
four,
one.
last one, but it's nothing to do with it.
This is really good. This
In
is really good.
Chronicles, Adam, he's got a big olive. He goes through that small olive. To show that he was the progenic guy, he was quite important, because without Adam we wouldn't be here today. That's other reason, I can't remember,
All
but
right.
he had a reason and a way, because he wasn't doing it for religious reasons, he was doing it, he was the person who was producing all the seeds for the future generation.
So I think from all of this we can glean at least one common point of humility, that either way, when we approach this, we should be very humble, and then perhaps, like Steve was saying, we can actually hear Hashem.
Yeah, correct.
If you make yourself too big, you can't really hear Hashem. It's like, who's making all the noise? You're making all the noise, you know. Or a person thinks he's very chashuv, then when he sits down to learn, he's not going to really hear what Hashem is saying. He's always saying, well, I think it says this, and I think it says that, I think of that. It's always him.
Very good.
So you have to be a little bit more humble just to hear the words of Hashem, just so when he calls out to you. In any event. And that's also why olive, because olive, the Gemara says, represents learning. For example, that's where the word
Olive base.
in the olive base, in the Morning Shabbos, when it discusses the olive base, talks about olive being teaching. Because olive is related to the word ulpan, actually. And it says when Yaakov sent Yehuda on, ahead of everyone else, to Egypt, he set up the yeshiva, and the Targum says base ulpan. Set up a base ulpan. What do you think? He set up an ulpan?
Open today.
No, he didn't set up an ulpan. Because ulpan, we're going backwards. We're using what it means today to make it cloud our vision. They use that word to talk about today when they teach Hebrew, but it's not really the real meaning of the word ulpan. Ulpan really means teaching. place where you learn, where you teach. That's why the Targum would translate that when he sent Yehuda on to set up the yeshiva, he set up a base ulpan. So the word aleph represents learning, which if you think about it, makes sense that in a Jewish life, what's the very first thing you have to think about is the education of the children, the education of the adults, right? We all know that as great as it is to think about the education of the children, if we don't think about the education of the adults, then you have a lot of smart kids running around looking up at a lot of dumb adults. And that's not good either, right? A lot of us feel inferior to our children or grandchildren who may be able to learn better than us. That's not a good feeling. So we shouldn't ever be in that position. We should always say, I'm in the middle of learning myself. Maybe you're learning on one level, I'm learning a different. We're all learning. That's the aleph. That's the first step in every Jewish life is learning. And even a big person, a chacham, we don't call him a chacham like the Spartans do actually, but call him a talmid chacham because he's still learning. So if he thinks he's a chacham, he stops learning, then he's ready to go to the retirement home, which is in the sky, right? And to really utilize your wisdom that you have gotten till now, you should be a talmid chacham. Take what you are endowed with, or what you have learned till now, and learn and go forward and then learn even more. So again, if it's too big, if you're making yourself too big, you won't have that opportunity to learn. Okay, and of course the children start learning right here, right? Little children, they start them, at least in the old days, they used to start them with Vayikra, many different reasons. This can be one of the messages that they see right away, a small aleph. They see that we're supposed to be humble, but on the other hand, they see also if you are small, you're still important. You're still part of the word. Right? Some say, I'm so small, I'm a nothing. Okay, maybe that's true. You're still part of the word. You're still part of the Jewish nation.
Did you lick honey when you learned this?
Excuse me?
You put honey on this.
I don't know.
Did you learn about the Kohanim or what?
Could be. It's different minhagim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got what we've got.
Who would like to start the ball rolling?
Shrilly.
No.
That's some kind, that's
Everyone speak for themselves, please. No,
Well,
don't volunteer somebody else.
No, it's just something.
Who would like to volunteer themselves to read? I would
Who's the
love-
best looking?
Lou. In lieu of anyone else.
Who's the best looking?
And he called Moshe to Moshe, Vaydeber, and spoke Hashem, Elav, to him, May Ohel Moed, from the tent of meeting, Lamor, saying,
Okay. Now, we already know the word lemor means to say, as if to say it to everybody else, right? That's
Right.
also. But the beginning is very strange. He called out to Moshe. We don't know who called out to Moshe. Of course, we assume it's Hashem. But if we're only supposed to assume it's Hashem, then why does it say Hashem's name right afterwards? And then Hashem spoke to him. Seems like, first of all, redundant. Hashem called out to him and spoke to him. Sounds almost the same thing. And then if we're supposed to assume the first one was Hashem, so why mention Hashem in the second? Just say, Vayedaber Elav. He called out to Moshe, who, I suppose it's Hashem, Vayedaber Elav, and he said to him. Alright, so if you're going to say Hashem's name, say it at the beginning. Why skip that at the beginning? Any thoughts? Alright, so maybe after we learn there's a huge Rashi here, I don't even know if we'll make it out of this in one day, but we might as well start now. Why don't we start with the first Rashi, and after all the Rashis are over, perhaps we'll have an answer to this.
Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe, L'chol dibros, L'chol amiros, for all of the words and
No,
all
a dibur is a saying, an utterance.
all of the utterances and all of the sayings, L'chol tzivaim, and all
Tzivuyim.
tzivuyim, and all of the commandments.
Okay, so there's three different kinds of basically communications with Hashem, apparently from this Rashi, I would say. There's places where Hashem is midaber. We talked about that a little bit in last year. What is midaber? And then there's omer, right? Which we actually have a little bit of that here, because we have Vayidaber Hashem Elav Lemor. So you have a Dibur and you have an Amira. What are these two different kinds of utterances, first of all? And then there's a Tzivui, right?
Command.
So what would you say these three things are? Anyone?
Well, Midaber is more forceful.
Exactly, a more forceful type.
Because more.
No, we don't have Vayikra here.
Speak is, like I said, more quiet.
No, we don't
No,
have
well, actually,
Vayikra.
it's more forceful.
I don't-
Rashi said every Dibur, every
Same, they're
Amira,
both same.
and every Tzivui, and then he hasn't yet finished the sentence. But what are these three things? I just wanted to ask.
Like I said, Lamor was saying it
Correct.
is maybe you have to repeat it, or
Repetition, perhaps. Is
repeat
it-
to the
is it
people,
Amira?
or like you said, it's a quieter, maybe it's not saying.
Maybe it's quieter, maybe it's softer.
not-
Good.
What you said,
Okay.
very good.
So we have to figure out why sometimes Hashem speaks more forcefully and one time maybe it's like a human being when he wants to relate something in a forceful way. Maybe
Yeah.
that impresses us more, gets us, maybe puts us on edge, maybe we're supposed to feel a little bit afraid or whatever. Okay, and then there's a tzivui, which is
Command.
what?
Command.
Commandment.
A command. Does that mean the first two were not commands? There's like sometimes Hashem speaks without commanding us?
Maybe the first one is a criticism, and the second one is a consolation, and the third one is simply neither good nor bad, it's a command. Straight command to do.
Well, I can't say you're wrong because I personally think these three,
Oh,
however we'll translate them, seems like Rosh is saying all the different kinds of communication. These cover all the kinds of communication. So perhaps you're right. Sometimes it's to console or to some other kind of instruction other than a tzivui. For example, how many commandments are there in the Torah?
600.
613, right? But how many words are in the Torah? Like hundreds. And how many sentences and instructions? There's a lot more than 613. In fact, the Rishonim, the Rambam, the Ramban, and others have a big machlokas, really, how to number the Tariag mitzvahs. I think someone mentioned that the other day. Rav Schatz perhaps mentioned it, I don't remember. Somebody
Rambam's
mentioned it.
he's got different mitzvahs. He has different mitzvahs he associates with.
Right, that's what I just said. They
Oh,
argue
yeah.
about what are the
Rambam,
613.
yeah.
Does that mean that, let's say, I have a list of this type 613, and what you list, I leave out?
Right.
Let's say some things the Rambam includes, the Ramban leaves out.
Yeah.
Does that mean Hashem doesn't want us to do that thing?
No.
He wants us to do that thing, but it's not officially a mitzvah, a tzivui.
Or which is more important to hit their eyes.
Excuse me?
Which is more important in his eyes, to relate those mitzvahs or to break them down the way.
I'm not going to get into more important and less important. I'm just saying there's a sefer by the brother of the Vilna Gaon. His name is Avram. So the brother of the Vilna Gaon called Milas HaTorah. That was actually the name that Rabbi Shmuel Auerbach, the Bracha, gave to his yeshiva. And I think in there he says that in the name of his brother, the Vilna Gaon, that every word in the Torah is really a command. He likens it to a tree that has many branches and then many leaves, and every word is like a leaf on that tree. You can't discount it. It serves a purpose. So in a sense, we can learn from every word in the Torah. So everything Hashem says is something we can learn from and become better human beings and better Jews, but it may not be the official command with the incumbent punishments and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are different ways that Hashem has of communicating all sorts of different ideas and so forth to Moshe. And Rashi is saying no matter what Hashem had to say to Moshe, what? Now continue please.
Kadma, Korea, Lashon Chiba.
Okay, let's stop there.
At first,
No, it's a verb here. It preceded.
preceded.
So the best thing is to put the subject before the verb. Kriya, kadma. Kadma kriya is like saying kriya kadma. A kriya, a calling out, kadma, preceded it. Okay? So let's say the whole sentence that Rashi is communicating to us here. Every time Hashem had to communicate either an amira, whatever that means, or dibur, or a tzivui, any of the different kinds of the instructions that Hashem would give Moshe, it was always preceded by a kriya. a calling out. Right? In other words, it wasn't just like Moshe Rabbeinu was walking along and all of a sudden, Ukshartim lo sal yudecha. And you like look around. Who said that? No. He gave him a warning. Moshe la, I have another one for you. Ukshartim lo sal yudecha. Vayila totafos beineinecha. And then Moshe said, thank you for warning me, because then when I heard you say the sivui, I was able to assimilate it, right? Because the hardest thing is usually being caught unawares. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu had to always be tahor. How do we know he always had to be tahor?
Because Hashem called him any minute.
But how do we know? Because Miriam, Hanaviah, complained, why is he separating from his wife? It's not fair to his wife. All the other Navim don't have to separate from their wives. And then Hashem told him, because I want him to be always ready. Therefore, he had to always be tahor and ready for the dibur of Hashem. And yet, Hashem didn't just catch him unawares. Even though he knew at any moment it could happen, but still Hashem gave him a warning, and he called out to him. But Rashi says more than that. Lashon chiba. What's lashon chiba? What's the word lashon?
Like connection.
Lashon can mean language or an expression of. Okay? So it's an expression of. Very often Rashi uses the word lashon to say it's an expression of this, it's an expression of that. In other words, it's not just calling out, it's more like when one who is beloved calls out to his beloved and uses the name, it's endearing.
Twice.
Right? Okay, but we didn't yet get into that. Okay? Well, all we had so far is that every time Hashem wanted to communicate with Moshe, he first called out to Moshe and warned him he was about to get a dibur, and it was more than just a warning, it was actually a sign of love from Hashem, an endearing way of talking.
Kiba is endearing.
Kiba is love, endearment, love. What's the best translation for kiba? You know, when you kiss a mitzvah, when you kiss a mezuzah, for example, or you kiss your tzitzis, you know what you're doing in the eyes of Chazal? There's a name, chibuve mitzvah. You're showing your love for the mitzvah. You're endearing the mitzvahs. Excuse me? Habibi, right? That's why the Sfarim call everyone Habibi, like my beloved. Right? Habib. Habib means beloved, endeared. Right? So Rashi's saying it's a lashon of chiba. It's like when you like someone, you say, Matthew, right? I don't just say, hey you, where are the pancakes? Right? No.
What's his reply?
Love.
What's your reply?
Make it yourself.
What's your reply?
Okay? And now Rashi steps it up even one more level.
I know what you're replying.
Not only is it a kriya to warn that he's about to talk to him, which gives him time to get his wits about him, it's also endearing, but also Rashi adds another thing. Keep going.
Lashon she malachei hashares.
Mishtamshim.
Bo.
Right, stop there.
It's a language of the singing angels.
The ministering angels.
The ministering angels. Mishtamshim, I don't know.
They use it. They're mishtamesh. Right? Like you use something, it's called a shimush. Mishtamesh means I'm using something. Lahavdil, a bathroom is called a beit shimush because it's a place that you use. We don't like to call it by its real name, right? So we call it by a borrowed expression, the place we use. But a shimush means a usage. Okay? That's why really a shamish of a shul is someone who just basically using the guy to keep the shul up. But obviously it's not a nice thing to say in English, but okay? So he just basically they use this word. In other words, when malachim talk to each other, which you imagine the most exalted way to talk is how the malachim must talk to each other, they use this word. Kriya. They use a kriya.
The shamash of old, am I right in assuming, Joshua was like a shamash. So therefore they say that the best way to learn from a great rabbi is to be a shamash.
True.
I don't mean to tidy up,
that's true.
but to watch how he speaks. That's part of the job. He's got to learn how he deals with situation, how he speaks to Matt, how he speaks to
and
Matt.
also by serving,
yeah, that's right, serving, yes.
You're showing also you're humbling yourself and you're making you're honoring the other and you're bringing that.
But you're watching how he deals with.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So there's more to it meets the eyes.
Right.
Some of
Correct.
the greatest.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so and this Rashi is bringing out that this little expression at the beginning of Vayikra is a very big symbol of the whole relationship Hashem had with Moshe Rabbeinu. That every single time he talked with him, it was always preceded with this kriya, which is an expression of love, an endearment, and it's also the way the Malachim relate to one another. And now Rashi proves that, as we say every day. Right? Like we say, V'karazel Zevi Amar.
They call this one to this one.
This one calls out to that one, right?
Using the word.
Hey Moshe, we're going to say the song now, get ready. Srula, we're going to say the song now, get ready, right? Each one calls out to the other one in an endearing way, apparently, according to what Rashi just said, in order to get them ready to what they need to do.
Why 3?
Keep going. Anyone else want to take over?
Why 3?
This is a long
Why
Rashi.
3 holies?
Excuse me?
Why 3 holies?
3? Where
I
is
say
3?
Holy, holy,
No,
holy.
we did not mention that. We did not mention that.
Kadosh, kadosh,
Okay,
kadosh.
Rashi did not mention that, so let's not get involved in that. Let's try to follow Rashi's train of thought. Rashi's saying it's a lashon of endearment, which even the malachim use amongst one another, which we see in that pasuk. But Rashi says, go ahead, Mordechai. Aval, you have it.
אבל נביא נביאי אומרוס העולם.
Right, what's umos ha'olam? What's an umah? A nation, right? It's a different word. Is a different word.
Ah, so it's a relation.
Okay, umos ha'olam are the nations of the world, correct? That's why it's kind of funny that the UN is called the
Yeah.
to the prophets representing all the nations of the world.
Typical topic.
Okay.
The prophets of
Okay, but to the prophets of the nations of the world, which we don't know that many of them, but as someone said before, Bilam was one of them. To them, to those Navim who represent to give messages to the other nations of the world, what?
ניגלה עליהם בלשון
Arai.
ארעי.
Nigla Lehem. We had this in Bava Kama not so long ago. Rashi talked about
Revealed.
Nigla. Revealed. Right? Hashem revealed to them
In
in the language of Arai. Arai we find in Sukkah. Right? Sukkah is called a Diras Arai. What is it? What is a Sukkah supposed to be? A temporary dwelling. Arai means temporary. Okay? So, meaning, not as if I want to have a normal conversation with you that's going to last for a long time, or not that I'm going to have a relationship with you that even could last a long time. Whereas Rashi's stressing that to Moshe, and apparently to other Nevi'im of Klal Yisrael, there was this building up of a relationship that was more permanent. But to the others, Hashem needed to get them information, or for whatever reason he wanted to talk with them. It was not. There was no implication that it was going to be a permanent relationship. Rather, lashon arai, a very a transient kind of language, and tuma, and also tamidik, right? Right. Tahara, purity. This is the opposite, right?
Hashem speaks the Tuma? I don't get that.
It's not that he is Tuma, the language is a language of Tuma. It's a language which connotates Tuma. Okay? It's almost like saying Hashem uses an expression which captures the moment that he really would rather not be talking to this person. That it's like, oh, and for 1 second I have to talk to you, and only because it's very important, because otherwise I don't want to be involved with you, as if I don't want to be involved with your tuma. We'll see in a minute what example is. Someone mentioned it before when I spoke about the small aleph. So shenemar, yeah, as it says, Rashi brings a proof to almost everything he says.
Vayikra Elokim El Bilam.
Hashem,
Appeared.
it's not really appeared. What is the word that we...
Happened.
Approached.
Yeah, mikra. A mikra is a happenstance. Like it says by Amalek, Asher Karcha Baderech. We had that a few weeks ago with the Parsha Zachor. Right? He happened to come upon you. There's all sorts of explanations of that word. But, right? In other words, it just, Hashem happened to come to Bilam. Right? As if to say, I don't want to stay around here too long, guys. You know, because you're full of tumah. I don't really want to have anything to do with you.
But I always thought that was Bilam's perspective.
His perspective.
Bilam felt that Hashem happened upon him.
And Hashem
Not
wanted
that
to have a longer relationship with him.
Well, that Hashem was straight. Hashem was Yashar.
Okay, but Hashem
Hashem is
when it
straight.
expresses in the Torah how Hashem appeared to him, it uses the word Vayiker,
Right.
which Rashi is saying are two connotations to that.
Casualties.
Incidental, like a temporary,
Right.
Bumped
and
into it.
Kame. Because the word carry, right, when a person has a nocturnal emission, it's called a carry, a Baal carry, someone who had a nocturnal emission. Right, like a happenstance, like it just happened to say, why did that happen? I don't know, it just happened. You know, but it's like tumah can just happen, right? Whereas tahor, you have to go out of your way to become tahor. But tumah just happened to bump into this or a dead body, a dead this, or whatever. It happened to have an emission. That's more like a happenstance. Whereas tahara requires building up and going to the mikveh and preparing paraduma. Every time there's tahara, it's through an effort of trying to make yourself tahor. That's what the idea of paraduma was that we read yesterday. In any event, so he's saying the expression that Hashem used when he appeared captures that, right? That's what the Torah is all about, that the words are capturing the ideas. In the words themselves are multi-layered. So the word Vayiker, which you could just say Hashem appeared to, I'm sure there's many translations, the King James Version or whatever, Hashem appeared to Bilam, but Rashi is saying that's not really the pshat. Based on Chazal, he's saying it's really connotating Hashem just happened to come along Bilam. Of course, Hashem doesn't just happen to do anything. Everything is planned and everything is for a reason. But he used that word to imply, I really don't want to be here, guys. You know, I happened to meet the guy, I happened to meet the garbage man. I told him, like, as I was walking by, you know, please take out the garbage.
No fun for a trumpet.
I didn't want to stand too close or I was going to get all that stuff on me. As if, right? Give the yachal. Everything, Hashem is completely beyond this world, completely beyond any tumor or tower or anything, but Hashem uses words which capture the idea behind it. The idea behind it, Rashi says, is that it was meant to be temporary and due to the tumor that was involved with Bilam. In any event, that's not the main point of this Rashi. The main point of this Rashi was to capture the word Vayikra, right? And Rashi said every single time Hashem spoke to Moshe, it didn't say it in the Chumash, but here's the key. So maybe that's why it doesn't actually say Hashem at this point, because it's every time. Every time he spoke to him, it was this way. Whereas if he just said Vayidaber Hashem, it sounds like just this particular time. Rashi says no, even though it's in the middle of Vayikra, which is the middle sefer of all of Chumash, it could have done it really at the beginning, but the lesson is here. Beginning of Vayikra. You have to ask yourself why the lesson is specifically here. But here's where Hashem put the lesson in, that every single time he talked to Moshe Rabbeinu, he uses extra calling out, and which is an expression of endearment and an expression of wanting like a higher level of relationship. Okay, next Rashi. Yaakov, can you read the next Rashi?
What are we here?
Vayikra El Moshe.
Where is it?
Faerman.
ויקרא אל משה, הכל הולך ומגיע לאוזניו.
Stop there, please.
And Hashem called to Moshe.
The voice. Hakol means
Oh, the voice. The voice.
Holech goes out
So it goes out and reaches the ears. To the ears.
to his ears.
To his ears.
In other words, like Steve was saying before, it only reached his ears. Only he's the one who heard it. Keep going.
וכל כל ישראל לא שומעים.
All the other Jews,
No.
lo shomim, they couldn't hear.
Oh, they couldn't hear. Oh, right. Okay.
Right? Only Moshe Rabbeinu heard most of these commandments, even though it was like, Shem speaking, so everyone around should have heard it, right?
So he
No, you have
received
to have like a radio, the right frequency, right?
So
They
you wasn't-
weren't on the right frequency.
Did you hear it in the tent of meeting only? This particular instance.
Well, Rosh is going to speak a little bit more about it. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but how the voice actually worked. But he's just saying at this point, why does it say he called out to Moshe to get stress? Not only this extra calling, which he spoke about before, but the fact that it's always directly to Moshe and to no one else. Every Dibur after Har Sinai, when everyone heard certain things, was always directly to Moshe and no one else could hear. So then he says an interesting word here, which you have to kind of get a feel for this word. Yachol.
One might think,
Good.
I read translate, I read the English. They have
Hafsakot.
a break, is it a break?
Right.
Ayita, Kriya.
Stop, yes.
One might think that for these sections were also such a call.
For what?
It says that for the subsections there were also such a call.
Where there's a break,
A
okay?
break.
Where there's a break between the sections. Every section has a break between it. Sometimes larger, sometimes smaller. So maybe there also, at the very end, in other words, of each Dibur, he would call out to Moshe to end it, and to give him a break.
Right.
So you might have thought that.
Latem.
Talmud Lomar. Against that supposition, the Torah teaches us Vayidaber. That's why it says after the Kriya Vayidaber. That's why if you look at the pasuk again, Vayikra al Moshe, and then it says Vayidaber. What's the lesson of that?
Lidibur Hayata Kriya Velo Lasko.
Lavsakot.
That to
Right?
speak, that he was to speak.
Whenever Hashem wanted to speak to him, there was a
He
Kriya
called-
that preceded, as he said before, but not when there was any kind of a break. Right? So that's the message here. That's why we said it's redundant. Vayikra al Moshe Vayidaber Hashem elav. What are you telling me? Hashem spoke to him, and then it says again Hashem spoke to him. No, the Kriya we know is a special kind of Kriya, a special endearing language. And then it says Vayidaber to teach me that it was only before each Dibur that Hashem would call out. Now, of course, like Rashi said before, the Amir and the Sivui as well. But it means only when there was some message to give to Moshe that Hashem would call out before him, but not when there was a break.
Was
Okay,
it,
Steve, you want to continue?
was it to do with different wavelengths? You know, we think it's speech. We're not the same wavelength.
It means Hashem only wanted to communicate to him, and that's how Hashem works. If he only wants to communicate to one person, he's the only one that
But
will
can it
hear
be
it.
an analogy to a radio wavelength?
Just something that's within our understanding that makes it easier to understand how such a thing could be, but the truth is we don't need that because
No.
Hashem can do whatever he
Of course
wants.
you can.
Steve, Uma,
Oh, I wasn't. I didn't say it.
not paying attention? You know where we are?
I wouldn't say that, but I
Uma.
thought maybe Lieutenant.
Lola Hafsakot. At the beginning of the line it says Lola Hafsakot.
Lo Hafsakot, Uma Hayu, Hafsakot, Me Shem Shot.
We have that word again, Misham Shot.
Okay, and so what was
Were.
what were the interruptions in the hearing?
Misham Shot.
In this
Misham Shot is a verb.
in hearing.
No. We just said before, Mishamesh means to serve, like a shamish
Oh, okay.
serves the
So what
shul.
was the interruption serving?
What were they serving? What purpose do they have, right? Why have all these breaks? Why are there breaks,
Well, I want to learn that. Okay.
right? If they're not really serving a purpose, why are they in the Torah?
Okay.
They must be serving a purpose. What did they
Right.
serve?
Okay. Latain Revach LeMoshe LeHitbonen Ben Pasha'ah LePasha'ah. So thought and thought. Right? Uvein Inyan ideas to ideas.
Okay, so can you just translate the whole thing? Litain Revach.
To give space.
Good.
Okay, to Moshe, to Hibanin, to absorb,
Contemplate.
between explanation and explanation, and between inyan, idea and idea.
Okay,
Okay.
Parsha means like a section, right? That's what we're talking about.
Right?
Okay, there's two kinds of breaks. There's one that's just a few letters, space,
Right.
the space, and sometimes even longer. So apparently, one is called a parsha, one is called an inyan. But anyhow, wherever you find a break, Hashem was actually giving Moshe Rabbeinu some time off for good behavior, as it were.
Oh, okay.
Take a little bit of time, take a few minutes, and what? Not go have a cigarette,
All right.
Absorb what to
absorb what you just heard, right? Think about it, right?
Okay.
So he wasn't just giving him, where it's hard to, like, Moshe Rabbeinu could have, of course, absorbed it all perhaps, but Hashem still wanted to teach the methodology. This is methodology of learning, methodology of teaching. To stop and think about what you just learned, right? You just learned something. Maybe sometimes the Rebbe says something. Don't just blurt out something afterwards. Stop and think about what the Rebbe said. Rashi said something. Stop and think about it, right? And that's the way you can properly absorb it. That it can actually become part of, like we say, your hard disk, and become something meaningful in your life. Yes.
Okay.
Can I have a question, please?
Oh, I don't know.
Wait,
We're only 4
wait.
points left on line.
We get clarity. Moshe was the only prophet to get clarity. So he's speaking to the people, fine, okay, and he understands what the time for reflection, fine, great. Now, all the other prophets didn't have any clarity. So how could they?
You're not. I'm sorry. I cannot accept the statement that you just made.
No, this is the bit. How
They
could
didn't have the same clarity as Moshe, but
I
they
would
had
have
clarity.
They had clarity. So how could they speak? It's speaking to the people and making the people improve and to do whatever Hashem's commands. So why shouldn't they be given clarity?
They were given clarity.
But why wouldn't they
They
give?
weren't
Why did
given
God
the same level of clarity as Moshe.
So why is it
Rabbeinu.
even met? Well, it doesn't say the same. It just says clarity. It doesn't say the
It's
same
called
clarity.
Asplaklaria Meira and Asplaklaria She'ena Meira.
It actually says it.
Asplaklaria Meira is referring to Moshe. His level was called Asplaklaria Meira, a shining one that has tremendous light. And there's Asplaklaria She'ena Meira, and there's a type of perspective which doesn't necessarily shine out, but it means it's not as clear as Moshe Rabbeinu. Certain things they did understand, certain things they didn't understand.
So why wasn't it made?
That whatever they did understand, they're supposed to give over. What they didn't understand, they didn't understand.
Well, anyway, the next is the Kal V'chomer.
Okay, finish, please, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Kal V'chomer,
Kal V'chomer, the head joke, Ha-lomer, mean,
Lomaid.
Ha-lomed, mean, head joke.
Right.
So it's,
All the more so.
all the more so from, common man, the one who learns from
A common man, right? So in other words, you're a common man and I'm a common man. You're learning from me. So Rashi's saying
Yes,
all the
special.
more so there should be what?
You're
Time to absorb. Right? We shouldn't just keep going on and on and on and on. There should be a moment to think about it, to absorb it, and go on. And then obviously between classes there's time to absorb what you had in the previous class. And then at the end of every day there's time to absorb from the whole day. But Rashi's saying all the more so because he's saying Moshe Rabbeinu was an incredible genius. And he still needed a bit of time. He's getting from the greatest teacher who ever lived, so to speak, Hashem. And he's still the greatest teacher, the greatest student. It was still important to have time between to contemplate. So Kal V'chomer, we shouldn't say, I don't need to review my learning. Well, I remember it. No, if Moshe Rabbeinu needed it. There's a Kal V'chomer telling you that you needed it. Okay.